Nick, what is up, man? Thank you so much for jumping on the AIM podcast.
Yeah, man, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Dude, I'm super pumped about this one. We have some really cool friends, but my first question to you is if we ran an 800 all out right now, who's winning?
Not in my prime, because I think I know the answer if
Right
I'm in
now.
my
No, no,
prime.
no, right now.
So for your listeners, I've been retired for like 5, 6 years and I put on about 25 pounds of muscle. So
Huge, huge.
I know I could throw down a 215 in spikes. Could you run a 215?
Right now, I think that would be tough. It's kind of
It'd be
funny.
close.
So I played college basketball. My background is in basketball, but I actually broke. I've got a couple track records at my high school.
Back in the
Um,
day.
Nothing close to you, bro. I'm not gonna compete with you, but no, it's a cool story. Like honestly, I love basketball is everything for me, dude. Like I played soccer for a couple of years just because every kid plays soccer, I feel like. But basketball is what I loved. And then my senior year in high school, one of the managers on the basketball team was on the track team. Was like, dude, come run the spring. Like it's not a big commitment. We just need help. We need one more person to break the 4x100 meter record at our school. He's
Gotta
like,
love the 4x8.
yeah, it'd be like, dude, you'd crush it. And then you could focus on college basketball, whatever. And so I was like, all right, let's do it. So we ended up breaking that record, dude. That was super fun. But track was such a fun time just because I felt like the camaraderie and the team we had in that small distance group was like more close than any basketball team I've ever played
Yeah.
on.
I feel like a lot of people dislike the practices, dislike the training in track, but everybody keeps coming back because it's such a party. I mean, you get 100 of your friends out there and you're on the buses to track meets and it's co-ed, which is pretty cool. Like
Yeah.
I didn't love running when I was younger, but I freaking loved being outdoor with my friends in the parks running around Boise, Idaho. So I kept coming back for my friends and for the coaches that I loved. And one thing leads to another. You add up 10 years and all of a sudden you find yourself on an Olympic team. It's not quite that simple, but that's
Yeah.
looking back on it 20 years later, it feels like it just went by like that.
Yeah, I love how you put that, man. Yeah, just show up, run a little bit, and you'll be on the Olympic team. But no, let's dive into it, man. I would love to hear more about that kind of initial, the origin story of you getting into running. Like, what was that like? What kind of motivated you? Did you have someone kind of in your life that kind of pushed you towards that? Like, how did that even come about?
Yeah, well, like you, I love soccer. I grew up playing soccer and I thought, oh, I want to play, pro soccer one day. But I was pretty small for my age and wasn't getting the playing time I wanted. And this girl I had a crush on in 8th grade, she's like, well, I just went out for the cross country team. You just come out and run cross country with me.
Easy.
So I was like, I want to spend time with you. So that sounds awesome. I did not want to run. I hated running. But the idea of like going out and just jogging around the trails of Boise with this girl I had a crush on sounded like a fun time. So I did that in 8th grade. I ran cross. That was my first season of running. Ran cross again my freshman year of high school, and played soccer in the spring. And I was having a lot of success. I think I was top 5 in the state of Idaho as a freshman,
Wow.
or somewhere in there. And then the track coach came out and said, "Listen, you have to run track." And I'm like, "No, I'm a soccer player. I play soccer in the spring." He's like, "No, you have to run track." And I love this guy's name's Tom Shanahan. I'm still friends with him to this day. And the guy was just unrelenting about how much potential he saw in me. And I thought he was a kooky Irish guy that like was just weirdly into running and wanted me to run because he wanted points on the team or something. But he really believed in me, and at a time in my life, at 15 years of age, I was pretty insecure. Like I didn't know what I was going to be good at. I just desperately wanted to be good at something.
Mm.
And here's this guy who had coached a lot of great runners, and he's like, "I can make you great at this sport." And so I just, listened to him and put in the work and ended up winning 9 state titles in high school. That's the state of Idaho, mind you. It's not like California or Texas where you couldn't pull that off, but had some success at the high school level and had some colleges looking at me and ultimately went to run in college.
Dude, I love that. And I think, I want to pull something out of what you said because obviously it sounded like you had some running ability. You're athletic. Obviously, you're very successful in that space. But the mindset that you kind of just touched on is like you had someone who believed in you, which is always really, really helpful to have that support. That kind of had the knowledge, the layout of how to be successful. But you came with that mindset of, oh, I'm going to put in the work. I'm going to be consistent, and I'm going to push myself and get better. And I think the combination of those two things is ultimately how you become
I
super
think
successful.
I think having a mentor or someone that believes in you is absolutely critical. I'll tell you what, I believe in myself,
Yeah.
whether it's business, whether it's sport, I've always believed in myself. But even if you're like the most self-confident person in the world, there will be days, and I promise you, I've had many, many days like this where I'm like, I can't do this. I do not have what it takes. And to have somebody who can look at it from the outside and tell you, reaffirm that you have what it takes. That's what allows you to train through those slumps. And then that gets into the second point, the hard work. I've never been afraid of hard work, but when you are struggling to push through a barrier, when you're struggling to see the progress, the forest through the trees, that's where you need that outside perspective. And so the combination of believing in myself and believing in my hard work, and then having somebody remind me of just getting a little bit better each and every day, not trying to set the world on fire from day one. Like that's what really got me to where I am today, which was, just surrounding myself with people who believed in me and working my ass off. Those two things can take you really, really far.
The cool part about that is it's so simple.
It's really simple.
People
I will pause for a second.
It's not easy, but it's simple.
Hard work is not easy, but it is extremely simple.
Right.
The mentor, the expert, the person that believes in you, the person in your corner, that came easy to me. But it doesn't come easy to everybody. I had parents that were very supportive. I had coaches that really wanted to work with me. Like sometimes you just luck into a great prep school coach, right? Yeah. A lot of kids will DM me and be like, listen, my coach doesn't know anything about running. And I'm like, that kind of sucks, because you can't, like, as a 15-year-old, go out and find an elite level coach. But I got a little bit lucky, but I was grateful enough or savvy enough to recognize, like, Tom Shanahan is a great coach. I need to listen to this person, and then at the collegiate level, Sam LaPrey is a great coach. He's a very successful person. I need to listen to this person. So I had the self-confidence to train hard, but not the arrogance to not listen to the people I knew were smarter than me.
And see, I think that's the key. Like, you have to work hard. That's inevitable. But like, also, are you able to like humbly accept what someone else has?
You got to be coachable, right?
You have to be.
Yeah. I mean, why are you doing it? Why do you even have a coach if you're not going to be coachable?
And I think that's what separates the good from the great. Like, are you willing to take something from somebody else that are trying to provide you and make you better? Like, at the end of the day, like, I think that's a really big skill that's super underrated. And I think, especially in my generation, is like taking stuff from other people, humbly accepting it, and then applying it with a hardworking background.
My opinion, as a guy who coaches a lot of, not in track and field, but like mentors a lot of younger people, 15 to 25 kind of Gen Zers, they don't take criticism well. And I don't know what that is. I don't know where that comes from, but like, you say something and it's not even in a harsh way. It's just critical.
Yeah.
And they just melts them, they, let me get my mic back in. They like wither like a flower, and I'm like, no, criticism's good. Like, I'm telling you this because I care about you and I want you to be better and I want you to achieve your goals. I'm not saying millennials have everything right, because we got a lot of things wrong, but I think we take criticism well. And that for me was important. I wanted always criticism, because if I'm not getting that feedback, like, why are we here? Why? I'm going to work my ass off for you. I need you to be critical of where I can make improvements, because I was always trying to be better. And we're talking about generalities here. I have some Gen Zers that are, great at taking criticism, but sure. I want to encourage everybody, whether you're a boomer or a Gen Z out there, embrace criticism. That is what's going to allow you to get better each day.
I couldn't agree more. I think we also have this kind of like, just level of just wanting to be comfortable. Like, we don't want things to be hard.
I don't want to be comfortable. Dude, I want to be always, I want to be permanently uncomfortable in everything I do, right? Because that's how you're pushing.
And I think for some people that have never experienced that, it's hard for them to resonate or realize what that does in their life. But for someone like you, who you've experienced it a lot, what that produces, what kind of outcomes come from getting uncomfortable, seeking adversity, finding growth, and then doing it all over again, because it's a full cycle.
Here's what and this is going to sound pretty cliche coming from a runner. Get your ass out and sign up for a marathon. Or even if you don't want to do a marathon, do a half marathon. Go out and put yourself in a really uncomfortable place. Yeah. And I call it type 2 fun. And I experienced this myself when I ran my marathon. You're going to hate part of it. And you're going to be like, this is so stupid. Why did I sign up for this? Why did I waste money on being miserable for a certain amount of time? But the high that you'll feel coming out of that, the sense of achievement and accomplishment will carry you for days, for weeks. And that's why we do it. That's why we make ourselves uncomfortable on a daily basis, is because we come out of that so much stronger. And like, if you haven't run a marathon, if you haven't run a half marathon, or even, a 10K or a 5K, get out there and just try being uncomfortable, be bad at something, and see how you feel on the back end of that.
Dude, I love that so much. And I think that the big piece is that it applies to everything you do. Like, go crush 100%. A marathon, and
Yeah.
grow there, but that's going to apply to your relationships. That's going to apply to your business. Like everything
Yeah.
you do, it's a game of levels. Like, can you level up? Can you keep pushing? Can you keep breaking down these walls? I love that, bro.
And I still do that today. You know, like I'm signed up for a powerlifting competition. I have my first ever
No way.
powerlifting competition in 8 weeks. Do you know how bad I am at powerlifting? You guys, you know, if you can't see this, I was a scrawny little distance runner growing up. I used to race at about 155 pounds. I've
Wow.
put on 25 or 30 pounds of muscle in the last few years to just try to do different stuff. So I do CrossFit. You know, I'll do my first powerlifting cycle. I want to do an Olympic lifting cycle because I'm so bad at it. And I just love throwing myself into something I'm bad at because the returns are so quick. You know, like I get better and better in the gym every day because the bar is so low to begin with.
Yeah.
If I was to set running goals, they're not fun for me because I've already done that. Like, the bar is too high. I'll never set a PR in the mile again. And that's okay because there's other stuff for me to try that I'm really bad at.
And I think doing that too, kind of having that spectrum of different things you're trying also kind of unlocks new levels of creativity in your mind
Yeah,
as
for
you're
sure.
like with business. And I want to touch on this more as we get deeper into this podcast, but like you're doing, obviously you got these cool fitness goals and challenges, but like you're running a really successful brand that's growing and like you've got to be on your toes creative. There's so many things. This world's moving so fast. Like you have to be able to not be so dialed in on one specific thing. Like you have to be able to see kind of the landscape.
Yeah, 100%. And I really believe that exercise unlocks parts of your brain, and there's science to back that up. I've always done my best thinking when I'm out on a long run or a long bike ride, and there's no distractions. And if my brain's running at like 20 miles an hour, typically, and I go for a long run, all of a sudden it's firing at like 100 miles an hour. And I do all my best thinking, problem solving, creativity thinking. And I preach that a lot to people. I'm like, if you're in a rut, just go for a long run or a long ride and your brain will fire like it never has before.
Dude, I love that. I think that's a super cool key and hack there. I want to talk about the Olympic stuff. I think you are. No, I don't think you are the very first Olympic athlete we've had on the podcast.
Really?
So
All right. I'm honored.
thank you so much for coming on. Yeah. But no, talk to us a little bit about that. I mean, that is no easy metric. I know you kind of jokingly said it earlier in the podcast, but I want to hear more about how that kind of happened, how you got to that point and what that kind of looked like.
Well, you know, if we pick up where we left off kind of at the end of high school, I really wanted to go to a D1 program. Like every kid, like I want to go to D1 and I want to have this incredible college experience. And the D1 schools I talked to, I wanted to also major in biochemistry or pre-med. I would have been a 4th generation surgeon. So like medicine is what my people in my family do. And you know, I didn't think there was a future in pro running for me. So that was what I was going to college for, was to get this college degree and go on to medical school. And every D1 program I talked to was like, yeah, you can't be pre-med here. It'll interfere with practice. And I'm like, well, I thought we were student athletes and you're telling me I need to be an athlete student. And it didn't make sense to me. So I started looking at some smaller schools, and Willamette University here in Salem, Oregon, the coach there was like, Nick, I promise if I have to come out at 8 p.m. to watch you do your workout because you have labs all day, that's what I'll do. And no other coach had said anything like that. He's like, we're going to throw every single resource we have at you here to make sure that you are successful. And I'm like, that's music to my ears. So I ended up committing to Willamette in the fall of 2001. And then started in the fall of 2002. And I don't necessarily think that's the best path for everybody, but you know, my folks were footing the bill. So like whether I went D1 on a scholarship or D3 on mom and dad's, you know, dollar, it didn't matter. And that's a huge luxury, a huge privilege that I had. But my folks wanted me to go to Willamette. I like the coach at Willamette. They don't have a great running program, but they have a really good chemistry program. So it worked for me. And there I found some success with a coach called Sam LaPre. He was the head strength and conditioning coach, but we just hit it off. And he kind of held my hand through 7 NCAA titles. And then, you know, you win 7 NCAA titles, even if it's at the D3 level in Nike's backyard, Nike takes notice. And I think it was literally the day I graduated. I was sitting at my graduation dinner with my family, and I get a call, and it says literally like Nike campus. And I'm like, I think I should take this. And I signed a deal with Nike a few days later and ran for them for 8 years. So it was kind of a wild card. You know, I'm sitting into my class. I remember my senior year, there were 14 biochemistry majors. And we all went around the class around the circle on the last day of class, and everyone said what they were going to go do. and you've got, oh, I'm going to this school for medicine, I'm going to this school to get my PhD in chemistry. 13 of 14 were going on to more school. And I said, I'm going to drop out and I'm going to go run and try to make the 2008 Olympic team. And everyone just laughed. And my professors are like, Nick, you're making a huge, huge mistake. And I thought, maybe, but I can always go back to school and, after the 2008 games. I'm 22 right now. I have probably only one chance to make an Olympic team. And if I don't do that right now, I will never, ever get this opportunity again. So even though everyone laughed at me, I knew, it was unequivocal. I knew exactly what I needed to do, and nothing was going to stop me. And then 2 years later, I make the 2008 Olympic team by winning the Olympic trials. And every single person in that room emailed me and said, I cannot believe you pulled it off. So,
Wow.
yeah, it was a really good moment. Not to try to prove people wrong, because I never felt like I needed to prove people wrong or prove people right. I just needed to prove to myself what I really believed I was capable of.
That's so good, dude. That really is good. So you make the Olympic team. You started to train for the 2008 Olympics. What did that training look like? Like, I'm super curious. Like, that's a full-time thing. Like, you were locked in training.
At that level, it's a full-time job.
Right.
And so I was really fortunate to have Nike and the Oregon Track Club Elite supporting me, because we trained, you wake up at 8, you get your body ready, you train from 9 to noon, you come home, you eat about 4,000 calories in a lunch, and you go straight to a nap, like 2 or 3 hour nap. And then you kind of like wake up groggy and go train in the afternoon. And you do that pretty much every day for like 50 weeks out of the year. I say that kind of jokingly, but like, seriously, we trained double. I trained doubles every day, Monday through Friday. I did hard intervals Saturday, long run Sunday. I to this day, I don't believe in scheduling days off. I think that's a huge mistake for a runner. I would take days off when I knew I needed them, but scheduling days off was not in the cards for me. So I trained, 7 days a week, 50 weeks out of the year for the most part.
So when you say take days, like when you say you schedule them when you need them, was it just purely based on feel? Would it be physical or mental as well? Or like, how did you gauge that?
Yeah. So like if I woke up and I'm like, I just am so run down, I physically can't put one foot in front of the other, I'd call coach and say, I'm burnt out. Like, I need a day or two off, and he'd give it to me. But there were days where like some of my teammates who scheduled a day off, they took every single Saturday off or something, every single Sunday off. And I'm like, well, do you feel like you need a day off? They're like, no, I feel great. I'm like, well, don't you think you should go train then? I read this quote, like, if you take one day off a week, that's 52 days a year that your competition is training and you're not. Wow. Right? That's not an option if you want to be the best in the world. And so I really believe in listening to your body and taking days off when you need it. But this idea of scheduled days off, and for powerlifting, that's a different story, right? Yeah. For some sports, it's just a different story. But for distance running, it is inexcusable to schedule a day off each week, in my opinion.
I love that take. And I love, the value you bring to that with your experiences. But I think too, what people don't realize, we had one of my friends I actually grew up with runs for Stanford, really successful guy, crushing it, did a lot of cool things. But he talked a lot about, like you mentioned, like sleeping a lot, taking naps, eating a ton. And I think those things also are huge components of recovery that people maybe neglect or don't realize how important they are. So I feel like if you can control those things, I feel like you can obviously train more and optimize your time.
Yeah, the biggest one is just listening to your body. And it's one of the reasons why veterans are so good at like the grind, because they know when they need to ramp up, they know when they need to rest. Young athletes, especially like, in high school, I couldn't do this. In college, I could barely do it. But, you learn to really be in tune with your body and know exactly what stimulus you need, when you need massage, when you need ice baths, when you need protein, when you need carbs. Like when I was tuned in, I could tell you exactly what I was deficient in or exactly what I needed to perform optimally.
Dude, that's amazing. Yeah. Well, thank you for your service on the Olympic team. I love our Olympic athletes that just represent our country in a really cool way. But I want to talk to you too about the transition from running professionally and obviously getting into business. And I know there's probably some tie where maybe they were happening simultaneously, but I would love to kind of hear your story there of how you got into business and, how that whole thing started.
Yeah, it's a lot of overlap. Coming from that D3 school where I literally was busy from about 6 a.m. to midnight every day. You got morning run, class, lunch, class, practice, study. I loved being busy. And then when I turned pro, it was like, okay, I pretty much just run and sleep and eat. And I felt like I needed something more, specifically on the mental side. Like I needed some challenge, some mental stimulus. And Sam LaPrea, who I mentioned was my coach, I was kind of confiding in him, and I said, like, I need to go back to school or something because I'm so bored. And he's like, well, what would you go back to school for? And I said, maybe I'd go back and get an MBA because I'm really interested in entrepreneurial business. And he said, well, if you're interested in entrepreneurial business specifically, an MBA isn't going to be as valuable to you as just getting your hands dirty, like, so let's start a business together. And at the time, we didn't know what we wanted to do. We ended up franchising some tanning salons in town because, one, it cash flows like crazy in the Pacific Northwest.
Wow.
And two, franchising is just a good cookie cutter business. Like, you don't really have to know much about business to get it going. You just follow the instructions. And so we did that for a few years, but realized we didn't love the business that we were in, like just putting people in these toaster
Tanning
ovens.
beds weren't your passion?
It wasn't my passion. I had never tanned before I started a tanning salon, oddly enough. So we sold those and then took the proceeds to start the company that I own and operate now, called Run Gum. And the idea behind Run Gum was that I was drinking these energy drinks that I fell in love with energy drinks. I don't know if your audience drinks them, but I loved one in particular. And I would drink it before I'd go run. And I would just feel so good. Like, I'm going to go crush this workout. But then I'd do the workout, and that sugary, syrupy liquid sloshing around my stomach would give me really bad indigestion. Wow. And half the time I'd be purging my stomach at the end of a workout, throwing up this purple mix of stimulants. And I'm like, why don't we just like bypass the GI tract? Falling back on that biochemistry degree, I thought we could absorb the stimulants, caffeine, taurine, B vitamins. We could absorb those sublingually. And bypass the GI tract. It would be faster, cleaner, easier. So we looked at a couple different ways to deliver stimulants sublingually. You're talking about tinctures or lozenges, dissolving strips. And we ultimately settled on gum because it's highly portable, it's easy to manufacture, and it tastes good. And so Run Gum is equivalent to an energy drink, caffeine, taurine, B vitamins, but in chewing gum form. So you can put it in your back pocket, put it in your spike bag, put it in your gym bag, in your glove compartment, take it wherever you want. Doesn't need to be refrigerated. It weighs nothing, but it gives you that same immediate boost whenever you need it most. And I kind of just launched it as a runner built for runners. And then it took on a life of its own. Target got wind of this and brought it in nationwide. Walmart got wind, brought it in nationwide. Amazon, we're doing pretty big money there now. And I just think it's a really fun business to be in. I love when people ask what I do and I can actually hand them a packet and then tell them the history of the product and how it's going to help them. It's a business called CPG, Consumer Packaged Goods, and I just absolutely love it.
I love that, dude. I think it's so cool, and I find it just so interesting when we talk to different entrepreneurs that have businesses and products they're selling in. It's something that you would use yourself. It's something that you can get behind, you're passionate about, and you've had experience at the highest level. You have the most credibility in the world to be able to talk to any runner or athlete and be like, look, I was an Olympic athlete. Like, this is a product that I know can help, and I know can, make an impact on your training, on your daily life, and everything you're doing.
I think that the level of authenticity helps a ton. Like, 100%. Two-time Olympian with a degree in biochemistry reinvents the energy drink. We got a lot of like really good press, earned media from that story. And we continue to tell that story constantly, whether it's in a podcast or a magazine or on my YouTube channel. We tell people that this is a product born out of necessity. And when they hear that, they think to themselves, well, I'm not an Olympic runner, but I'll tell you what, at 1 p.m. in the afternoon, I get tired and I don't want to choke down another cup of coffee.
Right.
And here we are, helping them be more productive in the afternoon. I love getting feedback from our customers about how they use it. We have truck drivers that use it, EMTs working 24-hour shifts that use it, marathoners that carry it with them in the middle of a marathon. Like, try doing that with a Monster energy drink, right?
Wow.
So yeah,
I love that. What have you seen as, like, what have been the biggest parallels between your training as an Olympic athlete, professional runner, and business?
I think the biggest one would be not getting discouraged when things aren't perfect. Like, if you're a pro runner or if you're an elite athlete, not every day is going to be perfect and fast. I would say most days are not perfect. Most days you're kind of pissed off that everything's not going right. And with business, it's the same way. Like, there's always something that's not quite right. That's my job, is literally just to fix the things that I don't think are right. And so I don't get discouraged. I just say, we have something great here. And if I can make it just 1% better today and 1% better tomorrow and 1% better the next day, like, that's going to add up. And so I think, athletes are resilient, and business leaders need to be resilient. That's probably the most direct correlation that I can think of. And then, of course, just the hard work, like, as a runner, I told you I ran 10 miles a day, every day, 50 weeks a year. Business is the same thing. Like if you're an entrepreneur, if you own the business, there's this joke. What do they say? If you work for yourself, you're either never working or you're always working. And it's true. Like it's a huge blessing and it's really fun to work for yourself. But I have to answer to this asshole every day, namely me. And I hold myself to a really high standard, like if things aren't going well, then I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, get your butt back in the office and fix this now. And I think you as an entrepreneur need to have that sense of I'm accountable to somebody who's very important to me, and that is myself.
That's amazing. Have you seen, if you're looking back on kind of the formation of the brand and getting started, obviously you guys are crushing it and are super successful and have all these different things going. But as you were just starting out, was there one decision you made or one thing that you saw that totally changed the game for you that just put you guys on another trajectory?
For Run Gum specifically?
Yeah, for Run Gum.
I think the big one for us was we really started out as a direct-to-consumer product. Like Run Gum's lightweight and you can ship it all around the country relatively affordably. So between Amazon and rungum.com, we had a really cute, fun business. When Target called and they wanted to bring us in nationwide, like you don't say no to that opportunity, right? But it really complicates the business. One, you have to come up with all the cash up front to build the product. Then you've got to ship it to Target. And unlike my direct-to-consumer customers that pay me 24 hours later, Target doesn't pay for like 90 days later. It's called net 90 payment. And that leads to a cash crunch. It was the best and worst thing that ever happened to us. Like the best because now all of a sudden we're nationwide and we've just doubled our revenue overnight. But worse because it complicated the business. So I always look back on that moment as really a growing experience for me because I had to like grow into the business as what it was becoming. And even though it was painful, it made me a much, much better businessman to respond to the challenges that created. Namely, I had to learn how to raise money. Like we couldn't keep up with that growth without bringing on investors. And anyone out there who's ever raised money, it is a really hard thing to do, but it is a superpower if you're an entrepreneur. There's like a few skills you need to have as an entrepreneur, but learning how to raise money, being able to speak finance, like understanding the difference between, debt equity, raising a convertible note, how a convertible note works. Like if you don't understand that, like you're going to get yourself into a cash crunch at some point and you're going to have to figure it out. So I felt like I came through the two cash crunches we went through in 18 and 19. And now I just sleep better knowing that I can probably raise us out of the next cash crunch that we're going to encounter.
That's super cool. Yeah, I think that's something interesting. And I can just feel the energy and the mindset behind your approach. It's just like you don't have all the answers, but you figured it out and you just have this inherent belief in the product and the brand.
Well, and I still don't have all the answers. Like I know that every step along this path, this journey of building the business, there'll be something else that I've never encountered before. But I've surrounded myself, just like I did with Tom Shanahan in high school. I surround myself with people who believe in me, believe in the product, and will take my call at 11:50 p.m. when I'm like SOS, we need help.
I need help.
They'll take the call and they'll help me, and they love those calls. That I'm really like lucky to have people in my Rolodex that'll mentor me and guide me along the way.
I love that, man. That's amazing. Where's the direction of the brand? Where is it headed? Do you guys have anything cool coming up and down the pipeline or any exciting opportunities?
From a sales standpoint, we've been pretty content with, Walmart and Target, but we've along the way kind of forgotten about grocery. And an interesting stat, like how often do you shop at Target or Walmart? Maybe once a month or every few weeks, but you shop at your grocery store 2 or 3 times a week. So there's a huge missed opportunity by not being in grocery. 2022 and 2023 will really start to target grocery. I recognize that I'm kind of being pulled in a lot of different directions. I've got, several companies that I'm managing at any given day. And the board at Run Gum, the investors, everybody kind of recognizes that my special skill is in connecting with people, specifically through social media. And they want me to do more of that. So I'm hiring some help on the executive side to help grow the business while I continue to tell the story, probably move into more of a traditional founder's role and less on operations, but that's all like, moving pieces right now.
Yeah, it's exciting. And you touched on, something I obviously would love to hear more about is kind of your ability to connect with people through social media, tell the story, obviously paint this picture of challenging yourself, pushing yourself, but having fun with it. I'd love to hear more about kind of everything you're doing from a social standpoint to kind of amplify all that you do.
Well, that's a great question. I remember when I retired in 2017, I did not miss the training. I didn't miss the travel. And I had replaced my income from running professionally to Run Gum. So I didn't necessarily need the revenue. But one gaping hole in my life, this like pit in my soul that was not being filled, was the connection with the audience, the connection with the fans. And that was, as a runner, really what fueled me. I just loved the fans. I loved, after a meet, I would stay for hours to sign every autograph and take every picture. Like, I loved these kids that looked up to me and wanted to be great runners themselves because they were inspired by me. Like, I am to some extent an ego-driven person, and that fed my ego. And I missed that really, really badly. And so a couple people who are close to me, they're like, why don't you start a YouTube channel? You can continue to interact with your audience via YouTube videos and have fun with them that way. And not have to, beat yourself up that you don't have this audience to entertain anymore. And so that's what I did. In 2017, I started a YouTube channel right at the end of my career. And in 18, I made these silly tutorial videos that didn't get any views. And then in 19, I hired a videographer, and we started this category, I guess I'd call it. We call it Fun with Fitness. And the idea was I trained every day for 20 years, and it wasn't always fun. And I want to continue to pursue fitness. I want to continue to be a fit person, but it has to be fun. If I'm not having fun, this is going to like fizzle out real quick. And so the YouTube channel is Fun with Fitness. If you check it out, we've got over 600,000 subscribers, but every video is a creative, sometimes wacky, sometimes intense way that I have fun with fitness. I recently flew down to Phoenix and did the NFL Combine at Exos with a former NFL player. That was one of the most fun videos we've ever shot. Wow. And it's going to hit 1 million views here pretty quick. And I think people could appreciate this guy who, obviously, I've never played a down of football in my life, but I'm not afraid to go head to head against one of the greatest football players to ever live and just get my ass kicked, laughing the whole way. Like, I was just having so much fun just, watching a true athlete do what he does best. And so that's kind of what the channel's about. We do a lot of meetup videos. We challenge people on the streets. I set up a bench press, mobile bench press in the park, and said, hey, I'll pay you $1 for every pound you can bench press. And looking at people push themselves and surprise themselves, it was so much fun. So that's kind of the content we create. I would say the future is a lot more of that, but like maybe even bigger concepts. Now that we have this channel that has revenue coming in, I want to reinvest that revenue. And I'm like, okay, well, how can I make my videos better? I think our editing's great. I think our storytelling's great, but I'm like, there's some concepts that I'd like to tackle that take a lot of planning and a lot of cash. And, just like Mr. Beast always says, reinvest every penny into the channel. That's what I need to start focusing on, is how I can reinvest this revenue to make the channel even bigger and better and inspire more people.
You're the fitness Mr. Beast, man.
I get that sometimes, and I laugh my ass off because I'm like, Mr. Beast has 91 million subscribers, but I appreciate the analogy there.
You got to do a challenge with him, man. You got to.
I'd love to.
Got to get him on.
It'd be so much fun.
That's awesome, dude. No, and I love it. One thing that and we kind of talked about this prior to this episode, but I have such a big heart and a passion for showing people that fitness and health and just living a good way can be fun. Like, you can be creative and you can enjoy it. Like you're saying, like, you don't have to wake up every day and hate it and be like, oh, I've got to go work out today. Like, you get to work out today. You get to do something that
it should be something you get to do. Like, what a blessing. Yes. What an awesome opportunity to get to go work out every day. Not everybody has that opportunity. You know what I mean? No, so I 100% agree with that. And I also kind of along this Fun with Fitness thing, people are like, well, I hate working out. I'm like, no, you don't. You hate running. And that's okay, but maybe you love Pilates. I hate Pilates, but I love running. Everybody just needs to find something that works for them. If you don't love working out, it's simply because you haven't found what your body and your mind and your soul responds to. So
for sure,
you don't have to run. You don't have to bike. You don't have to lift. You just have to find something that you love to do each day and then do it. And it could be something different every day. Like, I don't do the same thing every single day. I like to mix it up. And unless you're a pro athlete, then you have to do what's written on the sheet. Right. But if you're just an average civilian like I am now, just have fun with it.
have fun and try new things. Like you were saying, like you do so many things, like go find what, if you don't like what you're doing, try something else. Like I think
Yeah.
there's no shame in that. I think the shame is when you stop, is when you just give up. Like that's the
Yeah.
shame.
Well, and I love to see people, elderly people who can't lift weights and can't run anymore. And they go into the pool and they swim. They're like, I
Love
can't do
that.
this stuff, but I can still swim. Or like I'll see athletes that maybe are in a wheelchair and they're on the hand bike cranking and doing
Crank.
pull-ups. And I'm like, hell yeah.
That's
Just,
awesome.
you got to use what you got. You got to find something that inspires you. I just think I call fitness the glue that holds my life together. Like if I don't work out every day, I don't think as sharp. I don't have as much energy. I'm not as patient. I'm just not as good a person when I don't work out. So I really believe that 30 minutes of exercise a day, at least 30 minutes of movement a day, just increases the quality of life exponentially.
Dude, that's so good. So you obviously have the incredible content, the engaging, entertaining content on the YouTube channel. What does your training look like outside of the camera? Like when you're not filming, like how does that look?
Well, if you don't put it on Instagram, did you actually do it?
Right.
No, I cherry pick a lot of the stuff I post because I want it to be fun and entertaining. But
Right.
there's a lot of grinding that goes on. Like I say, I work out every single day, Monday through Friday. I'm in the gym doing a CrossFit class typically because I think it allows me to be a well-rounded athlete that can respond to a lot of these different challenges that I do.
Sure.
I don't think CrossFit's for everybody, but if you want to be a well-rounded athlete, it certainly makes somebody that way. Right now, I'm cycling off of CrossFit and cycling onto this powerlifting program. So for the next 8 weeks, I'm a true power lifter, trying to put on another 15 to 20 pounds of muscle, go into this powerlifting competition on May 8th or May 7th and put up some big numbers. My previous record for those that follow powerlifting, I put up 1,000 pounds last summer. And that was broken down into a 235 bench, I'm gonna mess up my numbers. I think it was like a 250, 355 back squat and a 440 deadlift. If I mess those up, there is a YouTube video proving that I did this. You can check it out. But I want to break 1,000 pounds cumulative. And I think with another 8 weeks of bulking and building, I should be able to crush that. That's the goal. And I'll of course make a YouTube video out of it.
Have to make the video.
And then on the weekends, I like to still do endurance athletics. I know my audience that powerlifts are going to yell at me that I'm not supposed to be doing endurance stuff while I'm powerlifting, but like an easy run with my wife on Sunday is one of my favorite things to do. She loves to run and we'll just go out and go for an easy 4 or 5 mile run and get some brunch. That's kind of our time to work out together. So some running, some cycling, some swimming on the weekends, and then just a ton of lifting during the week.
Dude, that's so cool. I love it, man. You've inspired me a lot with the stuff you're doing. So I appreciate what you're doing. And obviously you're impacting way more than just me. So my encouragement is just to keep crushing. And my last question is, man, what challenge are we doing together? When are we going to get out and do something?
Well, you gotta tell me what you want to do. One, it has to be, wait, how tall are you?
6'4".
Yeah. So I'm 5'10". So it's definitely not anything that involves height at all. I think there's just so many places we could go. Like I like to do fitness horse a lot with other influencers where we go into a gym, you pick an exercise, we both do it. I pick an exercise, we both do it. Whoever loses gets the letter. I've done that with Nick Bear. I recently did it with Austin Alexander. I've done it with Claire Thomas. It's fun because it really showcases an athlete's strengths and weaknesses. It is truly impossible to be great at everything.
For sure.
Right? Like if you challenged me to a dunking contest, I have a feeling you're going to win that one. And if I challenge you to an 800, again, I think I'm going to get you on that. It's kind of fun. It's kind of fun because we can eye each other up and try to target in on our own strengths and weaknesses. You're 6'4". On paper, you should be able to deadlift more than me, but I'll bet you I can deadlift more than you. There's only one way to find out. We got to challenge each other and make a YouTube video.
We're setting it up after the episode.
Yeah.
Dude, you're the best, man. Thank you so much for coming on the AIM podcast. This has been truly a special episode. And I appreciate you, man. This has been fun, a lot of energy, and I'm excited to see how you continue to just help so many people and obviously crush it in business as well.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Appreciate the opportunity to connect with your audience, man.
Let's go.